The vast emptiness of space stretched before Zarthia as she drifted between stars. For countless millennia, she had wandered the cosmos alone, an ancient being of immense power and knowledge. Her luminescent form, seemingly made of living starlight, contracted slightly as she focused her attention on yet another developing world. Earth, a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Zarthia had visited thousands of worlds and tested hundreds of species throughout her long existence. Each time, she hoped to find worthy companions for her endless journey through the universe. Each time, she left disappointed. Perhaps this time, she thought, though experience had taught her to expect failure. Her method was always the same. Rather than revealing herself directly, she would create a series of increasingly difficult trials. These tests would reveal the true nature of a species, their intelligence, morality, creativity, and potential for growth. Most failed at the earliest stages, unable to recognize the subtle patterns she wove into their reality. From her vantage point beyond Earth's moon, Zarthia studied human history with growing fascination. They were such contradictory creatures, capable of both incredible kindness and shocking cruelty, brilliant insights and baffling ignorance. They built magnificent civilizations only to tear them down in senseless conflicts. Yet they also created beautiful art, music, and literature that stirred emotions even within her ancient consciousness. Curious, she noted as she watched a human rescue another from a burning building. Minutes later, in another location, she observed humans fighting over trivial possessions. Unlike other species that evolved along predictable paths, humans seemed determined to defy expectations. This unpredictability intrigued her. Zarthia began to design her trials specifically for humanity. The first would be subtle, an object of impossible physics placed where only the most observant might notice it. The second would test their cooperation in the face of crisis. The third would challenge their deepest assumptions about reality itself. She had used similar tests before. The logical vraks of Andromeda had approached her puzzles with cold calculation, but failed to see beyond mathematical solutions. The empathic Noor collective had shown great compassion, but lacked the individual initiative to overcome certain challenges. The ancient Dorelli had almost succeeded, their wisdom accumulated over millions of years, giving them unique insights, but ultimately their rigid thinking proved their downfall. Would humans fare any better? Zarthia doubted it, but the process of discovery still brought her a rare sense of purpose. She crafted her first test with care, a small artifact that would appear near their orbital habitat. It would respond to curiosity and intuition rather than force or standard scientific inquiry. Most species attempted to dismantle such objects or analyze them through conventional means, missing the true nature of the test. As Zarthia finalized her preparations, she felt the familiar weight of anticipated disappointment. She had been alone for so long that companionship seemed like a distant memory, almost a dream from another existence. Yet something about these humans sparked a flicker of hope she hadn't felt in ages. "Begin the trials," she commanded, and a pulse of energy shot from her ethereal form toward Earth's orbit. The first test was deployed. Now she would wait and watch. Perhaps these humans would fail quickly like so many before them. Perhaps they would struggle further than most before ultimately disappointing her. Or perhaps, though she hardly dared consider it, one of them might surprise her. Zarthia settled into her observation point, her consciousness extending across multiple dimensions as the cosmic dance continued around her. The testing of humanity had begun. Kate Miller floated outside the International Space Station, her breath steady inside her helmet as she focused on repairing the communications array. After 5 years as an astronaut, spacewalks still filled her with wonder. Earth hummed below, a perfect blue marble against the black canvas of space. "How's it going out there, Kate?" Commander Wilson's voice crackled through her headset. "Almost done," she replied, tightening the last bolt. "Just need to run the diagnostic." As Kate reached for her tablet, something caught her eye. A flash of light where no light should be. About 10 meters away, suspended in the emptiness, was an object that hadn't been there moments before. "Command, are you seeing this?" she asked, her pulse quickening. "Seeing what, Miller? Your feed looks normal." The object was small, about the size of a softball, and seemed to shift between shapes: cube, sphere, pyramid, never settling on one form. Its surface rippled with colors that didn't belong in the visible spectrum. "There's something out here," Kate said, trying to keep her voice calm. "An object of unknown origin." Against protocol, Kate slowly maneuvered toward it. The object neither approached nor retreated, simply hovering as if waiting. "Miller, return to the station immediately," Commander Wilson ordered, concern evident in his voice. "Just a minute," Kate responded, now close enough to see details that defied explanation. The object's surface wasn't solid but seemed composed of flowing equations and symbols that rearranged themselves continuously. When Kate extended her gloved hand toward it, the object flashed brightly. Suddenly, she wasn't in space anymore. She stood in a white room with no visible walls or ceiling. Before her were 3 doors and a child who appeared to be crying. "Hello," Kate called out, confused by the sudden change. The child looked up, tears streaming down their face. "I'm lost. Can you help me find my way home?" Kate approached carefully. "Of course. What's your name?" "I don't have one," the child said. "But I need to get through one of these doors. Will you choose for me?" Kate examined the doors. The first was labeled Certainty and made of solid steel. The second, Possibility, was wooden with a small window. The third, Unknown, was transparent but cloudy, impossible to see through clearly. "What's behind these doors?" Kate asked. "Behind the first door is safety for you, but I'll remain lost forever," the child explained. "Behind the second door is a chance for both of us to find our way, but you might not return home. The third door," the child paused. "No one has ever chosen the third door." Kate considered the options. Most would choose the first door. Self-preservation was a powerful instinct. Some might gamble on the second. But something about the third door called to her. "What if we don't use any of these doors?" Kate asked. "What if we make our own way?" The child tilted their head. "That's not one of the options." "Says who?" Kate smiled, kneeling beside the child. "Come on, let's look for another way." She took the child's hand and turned away from the doors, walking toward the featureless expanse of the room. As they walked, a new path began to form beneath their feet. "No one has ever done this before," the child whispered, their voice changing, growing older somehow. "Maybe they were too focused on the choices given rather than the choices possible," Kate replied. The white room dissolved, and Kate found herself back outside the space station, the strange object now glowing with a gentle blue light. It pulsed once, twice, then vanished. Miles away, beyond human perception, Zarthia observed with growing interest. Throughout countless galaxies and millennia, no being had ever rejected the parameters of her first test. They always chose from the options presented, never questioning the framework itself. Fascinating, she thought, her consciousness rippling with surprise. Perhaps these humans warrant closer examination after all. Zarthia adjusted her plans. The next test would need to be more challenging. Much more challenging. 3 months after Kate Miller's strange encounter in space, Earth faced an unprecedented crisis. Power grids across the globe began failing without explanation. One by one, major cities plunged into darkness as energy systems collapsed despite engineers' best efforts to restore them. Eric Bennett stared at the wall of screens in the White House Situation Room, his tie loosened after 18 straight hours of emergency meetings. As National Security Advisor, he'd handled countless crises, but nothing like this. "It's spreading faster than we predicted," said a tired-looking scientist on the main screen. "Asia's grid is down 60%, Europe 73%. We're holding at 48% failure in North America, but not for long." The president rubbed her temples. "Options, people. I need options." Eric remained silent, studying the patterns of the outages on the digital map. Something about them seemed deliberate. Not random failures or even coordinated attacks, but almost like a message written in darkness across the globe. "Sir," Eric finally spoke, addressing the president, "I believe we're looking at this wrong. These aren't just failures, they're patterns." The room fell quiet as Eric approached the main display. He traced connections between the outage points, revealing a complex geometric shape. "It's too perfect to be coincidence," he continued. "Whatever's causing this is intelligent and trying to communicate." Several advisors scoffed, but the president gestured for Eric to continue. "Look at the timing intervals between regional failures. They're consistent with prime number sequences, and the geographical distribution follows a mathematical pattern similar to the Fibonacci sequence." The science advisor leaned forward. "He's right. This isn't random." Reports began flooding in of similar observations from other countries. Russia was mobilizing troops, blaming Western sabotage. China had closed its borders. Several smaller nations were threatening preemptive strikes against perceived enemies. "The world is about to tear itself apart fighting over who's responsible," Eric said quietly. "But I think that's part of the test." "Test?" The president's eyes narrowed. "Yes, someone or something is testing how we respond to crisis, whether we turn against each other or work together." While governments pointed fingers, Eric established a secret international coalition of scientists, engineers, and diplomats. They worked outside official channels, sharing data and resources when their leaders refused to cooperate. 3 weeks into the crisis, with nearly 80% of global power systems failed, Eric's team made a breakthrough. The pattern wasn't just in the failures, but in the tiny pockets of systems that remained operational. Together, they formed a blueprint for a new type of energy distribution network. "It's not telling us what's wrong," said Priya Sharma, a physicist on Eric's team. "It's showing us how to build something better." Working around the clock, the coalition implemented the solution, creating interconnected microgrids that drew power from sources they hadn't fully understood before. As each new section activated, failed systems came back online in a cascade of restoration. 2 days later, Eric stood alone on the roof of the White House, watching as lights returned to Washington, D.C. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing with messages from coalition members reporting similar successes worldwide. "We did it," he whispered to himself. A strange shimmer in the night sky caught his attention, just for a moment, like a ripple across the stars. He couldn't explain why, but he felt certain someone was watching, evaluating their response. Miles beyond Earth's atmosphere, Zarthia observed with growing fascination. Most species faced with her energy crisis test devolved into warfare within days. Some solved the technical puzzle that failed the social challenge. Humans had nearly torn themselves apart, yet a small group had rejected tribal instincts to forge unprecedented cooperation. "Inconsistent," she noted, "but promising." She prepared her next trial, the most difficult yet, one that no species had ever passed. Professor Olivia Rise rubbed her tired eyes and glanced at the clock on her office wall. 3 in the morning. Again. For the 5th night this week, she found herself staring at the same set of equations that had appeared mysteriously on her university's radio telescope data 6 weeks ago. The signal had come from somewhere near the Alpha Centauri system. At least that's what the astronomy department believed. But what had started as a routine search for extraterrestrial radio signals had become something much stranger. Hidden within the cosmic noise was a perfect mathematical sequence, followed by what appeared to be an unsolvable problem. Mathematicians worldwide had become obsessed with it. Online forums buzzed with theories. Government agencies had quietly contacted top researchers. Yet despite global attention, no one had come close to a solution. Olivia's small desk was covered with crumpled papers, empty coffee cups, and printouts of failed approaches. Her department chair had suggested she take a break, concerned about her increasing obsession. But something about this problem called to her, like it was meant specifically for her to solve. "It's impossible," her colleagues had concluded last week. "The premise creates a paradox that can't be resolved using any known mathematical framework." Olivia took another sip of cold coffee and stared at the central equation. Unlike her colleagues, she didn't believe it was truly unsolvable. Mathematics had faced impossible problems before. Fermat's last theorem had taken centuries to solve. But this was different. Every approach led to the same dead end, as if the problem was designed to trap the solver in circular logic. What if that's the point? She whispered to herself, a new thought forming. She grabbed a fresh sheet of paper and began writing quickly. What if the problem wasn't meant to be solved with the tools it presented? What if the real challenge was recognizing the problem itself was flawed? For hours, she worked on a new approach, not trying to solve the equation but to expose its fundamental contradiction. As dawn broke, Olivia sat back in her chair, heart racing. "It's a trick," she said aloud to her empty office. "The problem can't be solved because it's built on a false assumption." She had written a proof demonstrating that the original problem contained a hidden premise, one so subtle and aligned with human mathematical intuition that everyone had accepted it without question. By rejecting this premise, the impossible became possible. Olivia quickly coded her solution and ran it through the university's quantum computer. The screen flashed for several minutes before displaying a single message: correct. She stared in disbelief. How could the computer verify an answer to a problem no one had programmed it to recognize? The screen flickered again, and new text appeared. "Well done, Olivia Reyes. You are the first." A chill ran down her spine. This wasn't a computer response. "The first to what?" She typed back. "The first being in 12,000 years to recognize that some problems require rejecting the question itself." As the sun rose over the campus, Olivia's computer screen displayed a countdown timer. 24 hours. Below it, more text appeared. "Prepare yourself. First contact approaches." Far beyond human perception, Zarthia's consciousness rippled with something she hadn't felt in millennia. Surprise. The human female had not only solved the unsolvable, she had done so in a way that challenged the very framework of the test. Even the brilliant Arcturian mathematicians, with their six-dimensional thinking, had never questioned the problem's fundamental premise. For the first time since beginning her trials on Earth, Zarthia felt something unexpected: hope. The final test would now begin. When the countdown on Olivia's computer reached 0, the room around her shimmered and dissolved. For a disorienting moment, she felt suspended between realities. Then her feet touched solid ground again. She stood in what appeared to be a vast chamber with no visible walls, ceiling, or floor. Stars and galaxies swirled around her, giving the impression she was floating in deep space while somehow breathing normally. "Professor Olivia Reyes," a voice spoke, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Your species continues to surprise me." A figure materialized before her, vaguely humanoid but composed of swirling light and cosmic matter. Its form shifted constantly, never settling on a fixed appearance. "Who are you?" Olivia asked, struggling to maintain her composure. "I am Zarthia. I have existed since before your son was born." The beam's voice was neither male nor female, yet somehow pleasant. "I am the architect of the trials your species has been facing." Understanding dawned on Olivia. The space station anomaly, the global power crisis, my mathematical problem. They were all tests. Yes, tests I have administered to countless species across the galaxy for millennia. Few progress beyond the first trial. None have ever completed the third as you did. Olivia's scientific mind raced with questions, but one pushed to the forefront. Why? What's the purpose of these tests? The cosmic being seemed to consider her question. "I search for worthy companions in my journey through eternity. Intelligence that might offer new perspectives in my endless existence." "And how has humanity performed?" Olivia asked. "Inconsistently," Zarthia replied. "Your astronaut, Kate Miller, showed remarkable creativity by rejecting the parameters of the first trial entirely. Your security advisor, Eric Bennett, demonstrated unusual cooperation in the second trial. And you solved what was designed to be unsolvable." But as a species, you remain deeply flawed, violent, short-sighted, divided. You barely passed my trials. Olivia listened carefully, then did something that surprised even herself. She laughed. What amuses you? Zarthia's form pulsed with curiosity. Your methodology, Olivia said. For a being of such immense intelligence and age, your approach to measuring worth is remarkably limited. The cosmic chamber darkened slightly. Explain. You design tests based on your own values and experiences, then judge species by how well they conform to your expectations. That's not measuring potential. It's measuring similarity to yourself. Zarthia's form contracted. My trials evaluate universal principles of intelligence and moral reasoning. No, Olivia countered. They evaluate specific types of intelligence and specific moral frameworks. You call our inconsistency a weakness, but it's actually our greatest strength. She stepped closer to the cosmic being. Human progress comes precisely because we disagree, because we contain multitudes of perspectives. Our greatest achievements emerge from the chaos of our differences. Your argument is unexpected, Zarthia admitted. All other species accepted my judgment without question. Perhaps that's why they failed your final test, Olivia suggested. Not because they couldn't solve your puzzles, but because they couldn't challenge your assumptions. The chamber fell silent as Zarthia seemed to process this. Finally, the being spoke again. In 12,000 years, no one has ever questioned my methods, only my conclusions. Zarthia's form expanded slightly. Perhaps I have been asking the wrong questions all along. All good scientists revise their hypotheses when evidence contradicts them, Olivia said with a small smile. Then I shall revise mine, Zarthia replied. But first, there must be one final trial, the most important one. The cosmic chamber began to shift around them, rearranging into something new. What now? Olivia asked. Now, Zarthia said, we see what humanity truly values. Olivia found herself standing in the White House Oval Office, where the president sat behind the historic desk with a troubled expression. A dozen advisors filled the room, including Eric Bennett, who looked as surprised to see her as she was to see him. Professor Reyes, the president said, I'm told you're the reason we're facing this situation. Before Olivia could respond, the air shimmered and Zarthia appeared, her cosmic form condensed into something more humanoid, but still composed of swirling energy and light. Leaders of Earth, Zarthia announced, her voice resonating throughout the room. I have evaluated your species and found potential worth cultivating. The president stood slowly. And who exactly are you? I am Zarthia, observer of civilizations. I have tested humanity and now offer you a choice. With a gesture, Zarthia created a holographic display in the center of the room showing technological marvels beyond human understanding, energy systems that could power Earth for millennia, medical devices that could cure any disease, transportation methods that could reach distant stars. I offer humanity these gifts, Zarthia continued. Knowledge that would advance your civilization by 1,000 years, end your wars, cure your illnesses, solve your environmental crisis. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. What's the catch? Eric asked, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. In exchange, I require only one thing, Zarthia replied. Olivia Reyes must leave Earth and accompany me on my cosmic journey. Forever. The president's eyes widened. You want us to trade a human being for technology. One life for the salvation of billions, Zarthia said. A simple calculation. The room erupted in debate. Some advisors argued passionately that the needs of humanity outweighed one person's freedom. Others insisted no amount of technology was worth sacrificing a citizen. The president called an emergency meeting of world leaders. For 3 days, as Zarthia waited patiently, humanity argued with itself. Nations that had been enemies for generations found themselves unified in debate, if not in conclusion. On the 4th day, Olivia requested to speak privately with the president. I'll go, she said simply. "Professor, we can't ask you to sacrifice yourself," the president replied. "You're not asking. I'm offering." Olivia smiled sadly. "But I have conditions of my own." When the time came for Earth's answer, Olivia didn't go to the meeting alone. Kate Miller stood on her right, Eric Bennett on her left. Behind them stood others, people who had encountered and overcome Zarthia's smaller tests around the world. Zarthia's form pulsed with surprise. "What is this?" "My condition," Olivia explained. "I'll accompany you, but not alone. Each of these people has passed one of your trials. Together, we represent humanity's response to your challenge." "That was not the offer," Zarthia responded, her tone for the first time showing uncertainty. "I'm changing the parameters," Olivia said, echoing Kate's approach to the first trial. "Just as you've tested us, now we test you. Will you adapt to our unexpected response, or insist on your predetermined outcome?" "This is most irregular," Zarthia said, but curiosity radiated from her cosmic form. Eric stepped forward. "Humanity doesn't progress through individual brilliance alone, but through collaboration. If you want to understand us, you need more than one perspective." Kate nodded. "You've been alone too long, evaluating species in isolation. Maybe what you really need isn't a companion, but a community." For what seemed like an eternity, Zarthia remained silent, her form shifting through countless patterns as if deep in thought. Finally, she spoke. "In 12,000 years of testing civilizations, no species has ever responded this way." Her form brightened. "You continue to fascinate me." "Does that mean you accept our terms?" the president asked cautiously. "It means," Zarthia said, "the final trial continues, but with a new direction. I find myself learning." Around the room, humans exchanged hopeful glances. For the first time, it seemed like they were no longer merely subjects of a test, but participants in a dialogue. 1 year after Zarthia's ultimatum, a small group gathered on a remote mountaintop under a star-filled sky. Olivia Rice stood at the center, with Kate, Eric, and a dozen others who had faced and passed various tests placed by the cosmic being. They waited in silence as the air began to shimmer and fold, revealing Zarthia's luminous form hovering above them. "The time for decision has come," Zarthia announced, her voice gentle but firm. "Earth has used my gifts wisely this past year. Disease rates have fallen. Energy is now abundant. Your wars have largely ceased. And now you expect payment," Eric said, his expression solemn. "That was our agreement," Zarthia confirmed. "Olivia rise in exchange for humanity's advancement." Olivia stepped forward, a calm smile on her face. "Before I fulfill my part, I'd like to show you something, Zarthia." She gestured to the circle of humans around her. "During this year, we've been working on a project of our own. Not with your advanced technology, but with something uniquely human." At Olivia's signal, each person joined hands, forming an unbroken circle. Kate pulled out a small device and placed it in the center of their group. "What is this?" Zarthia asked, her form rippling with curiosity. "For millennia, you've searched the cosmos for worthy companions, testing species on their individual merits," Olivia explained. "But you've been measuring the wrong thing all along." The device activated, projecting a complex holographic display showing interconnected nodes of light. "This represents 1 hour of human communication across our planet," Olivia continued. "Each light is a thought shared, a connection made, an idea born from interaction between minds." The display shifted, showing how simple exchanges built upon each other, creating emergent patterns of increasing complexity. "True intelligence isn't found in any individual, no matter how brilliant," Olivia said. "It exists in the spaces between us, in our connections, our disagreements, our shared experiences." Kate spoke up. "When I faced your test at the space station, I succeeded not because I'm exceptional, but because I carried with me the collective wisdom of everyone who taught me to think differently." "The same with the energy crisis," Eric added. "Our solution came not from one brilliant mind, but from thousands of people sharing ideas across borders that normally divide us. Zarthia's form contracted, then expanded. You suggest that I have been measuring individual capability when I should have been observing collective potential. Exactly. Olivia nodded. For all your power and knowledge, you've been alone too long. You've forgotten that consciousness thrives through connection, not isolation. Zarthia drifted closer to the holographic display, studying the intricate patterns of human thought and communication. Fascinating. In all my existence, I never considered. That's why I'm not going with you, Olivia said gently. At least, not the way you planned. Zarthia's form flickered with surprise. You refuse our agreement. I offer something better, Olivia replied. Rather than taking me from humanity, join us instead. Not as an observer or a tester, but as a participant in our messy, chaotic, beautiful evolution. For several minutes, Zarthia remained silent, her cosmic form shifting through countless patterns as she processed this unexpected proposal. Finally, she spoke. In 12,000 years of searching for worthy companions, I never considered that I might be the one who needed to change. The assembled humans held their breath. I accept your offer, Olivia Reyes, Zarthia said, her form glowing brighter. I will not take you from humanity. Instead, I will learn from humanity, from all of you. As dawn broke over the mountain, Zarthia's form began to change, transforming into something new, neither purely cosmic nor human, but a bridge between worlds. My trials end today, she announced, and my education begins. Around the circle, humans smiled as the first light of a new day touched their faces. The observer had become the student, the tester had become the tested, and humanity had passed a trial far greater than any Zarthia had designed. The challenge of teaching an ancient cosmic being that true growth comes not from perfection, but from connection.